Welcome to the Automation Unplugged podcast, the podcast for technology professionals, featuring leading industry personalities. I'm your host, Ron Callis.
Let's get started.
Hello there, Ron Callis with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Oh my goodness, do we have a doozy for you today? I know you're gonna love the topic. I know that I'm going to love the topic. I know that I'm going to love the conversation. And I'm going to admit that I think all of you are also going to love and appreciate the topic, because we are going to stay on this track of talking about AI and other things. But we're going to talk about AI and where's the world going, and what are applications for you and for your business, and how should you at least consider thinking about what's happening in the world of this technology innovation, this change that's happening so rapidly. And frankly, I believe, and many that believe, that's going to change the world in so many ways in the coming years. By the way, it's changing the world in so many ways right now, here in the fall of 2025. So I am very excited to bring you the one and only Ari Supran. He is the CEO of Sonance. You all know him. You've all likely seen him speak. You've all likely, maybe you just saw him recently on the CEDIA trade show floor. Or maybe you were at a buying group event. I know he's actively attending and teaching and training at the buying group activities this fall. But I have him here on Automation Unplugged, and we are going to dive deep on a bunch of hot and fun topics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Ari, and let's begin. All right, my friend, how are you?
Good, Ron. How are you? Nice to see you.
I am good. I'm not gonna lie, Ari. I'm very honored that you're joining me here on Automation Unplugged.
Honored to be here.
Awesome. All right.
Way back, we used to work together a long, long time ago.
Oh my goodness, many moons. I want to say I started at Lutron in 2000, and there within a blink, you were at Lutron, but then you went off to school. At least that's what I think I remember.
Well, I was there 7 years before I left to go to school, and then I came back to Lutron for 2 more years, so almost 10 total.
I remember. So you'll have to tell me if I'm remembering correctly or if I'm misremembering. But what I think I remember was being at like a sales meeting. And I remember you entering the building, and maybe you had just come back from graduate school. Yeah. And I remember there was like a standing applause. And everyone's like, oh my God, Ari's back.
No, I don't know about that.
Is that possible? When would you have finished?
So I started in 1995 at Lutron, and I left to go to grad school in 2001. Okay. And I did 2 years of an MBA, and I came back to Lutron in 2004, I guess. So 2004. And I left again in 2006 to join Sonance. I've been here, I was started January 1st, 2006. So it'll be 20 years this January.
If anyone has been living under a rock and does not know who and what Sonance is, what's the skinny? Who and what is Sonance?
Well, we're a 43-year-old privately held company, still owned by our original founders, which is a bit of a unicorn in this industry these days. Our founders kind of credited with commercializing and creating the category of architectural speakers in the world in 1983. And we've grown into a global company supplying custom installers, as well as making inroads in the pro market as well. And then we also have a brand, iPort, that is a subsidiary of Sonance that does iPad accessories predominantly for enterprise and anywhere people are dedicating an iOS device for a specific purpose, as opposed to the device they carry around with them on a day-to-day basis. And we're about 300 plus employees right now with offices around the world. And I think we're still growing and still privately held with no plans to sell.
Awesome. And you have a brand new European headquarters.
Well, we do.
Can we
We
go
just
there? Yeah, it's not I'm
sure.
not breaking the news. It came out months ago,
Yeah,
but can
yeah,
we dive into that? You
sure.
guys acquired Blaze
We
Audio.
yeah, we've been doing business in Europe for a long time, as well as Asia, and we've had some employees working from their homes, but not really an office there. And then we acquired Blaze Audio in Copenhagen, Denmark, about 3 months ago. And Blaze Audio is 18 people and a line of high Z, low Z amplifiers with and without Dante, as well as some sound reinforcement loudspeakers. And we acquired that from its parent company, Pascal Audio in Denmark, and incorporating that into both our professional and residential businesses. So we've got a full line of now some loudspeakers here that we didn't have in our line, some like I said, sound reinforcement products, line array type stuff that was in our roadmap, but we weren't there yet. And then we've got a line of amplifiers as well that we can immediately start selling to both pro and residential customers. Like I said, high Z, low Z, with and without Dante, lots of different configurations, low power, high power. And we just debuted this to the residential community at CEDIA Expo very recently, and was really well received. And we'll be, like I said, bringing that to both the pro and residential markets.
I'm admitting my ignorance on the subject so that anyone listening doesn't have to admit their ignorance. So they're all fully educated and aware. Tell me what does this mean, at least to the residential CEDIA integrator, the person that's doing, resi projects or resi and commercial projects? What is this bringing to their lineup of offerings?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, we've Sonance has always had amplifiers with DSP, and this is just a broader line of them. And then you bring in products with Dante, and Dante, obviously more from the commercial market, but we have more and more residential integrators are starting to implement Dante in some of the larger projects. We also do a lot of business in the super yacht industry through the James acquisition 5 years ago, and Dante is becoming very popular as a way to move audio over IP around a project in the super yacht industry. So it really kind of plugs right into what we're doing today in a really compelling way. And then from a traditional residential integration business that may not be doing Dante today, this just gives us a full line of every configuration you can imagine with very sophisticated DSP. We're going to be, or we have created a GUI for residential that tries to speak more in the residential terminology and makes it easier for a residential integrator to set up an amplifier and tune it both for the Sonance or James speakers that they're using or someone else's, as well as to correct for any room anomalies. And it's just trying to simplify this. It's residentially, a lot of integrators are looking for, they want to tune a room and get optimal performance, but they don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. They don't want to have special expertise with microphones and RTAs. And I think our GUI really simplifies things, and we're excited to really show the residential community what's possible with DSP.
I love it. What can folks in Europe expect? What does this means in terms of the expansion or exposure of the Sonance brands?
So we have an office now in Copenhagen. We have employees there in everything from sales to marketing to customer service, technical support, et cetera. And we will be over time adding to that team. And, we really look at that as not the Blaze office, because Blaze is just part of our company now. And we don't look at it as just a pro office. It's going to be our European headquarters for all of our brands and all of our channels. We have a warehouse in Rotterdam. It'll get managed out of that office. We'll have customer service and tech support in time zone now for all of our European customers. And we're just excited to continue to invest in that. Europe's an incredibly important market for us. And this really allows us to take all of our marketing that we're doing coming out of the US and localize it in Europe for the European audience, as well as, like I said, have people in time zone there to support our customers.
I love it. Well, that's cool. Well, that's exciting. What was your big takeaway, or what was maybe the sentiment on, I know just recently was the CEDIA show and you were breaking this news, or not breaking it, but exposing the attendees to the product mix. How did dealers respond?
So first of all, we announced this right before InfoComm in June. So InfoComm was kind of our big coming out party there, where I think it really put Sonance on the map professionally as like, okay, you guys are serious about this, and you're making the types of investments in product and people, combined with some of the investments we had already made to bring in people from the likes of both Professional, QSC, JBL, et cetera. Then you go acquire Blaze, and you have this relationship with Pascal, their parent company. You guys are serious. So that was exciting. Bringing it to the residential community, look, it's not a surprise to us that residentially US, not a lot of awareness of Blaze, but as we got a chance to show them the products and, does it have this? Does it have that? Yes, yes, yes. The excitement is really building for it, and we're ready to go, and it's a really exciting time for us. It will enable, our philosophy is that the amplifier and the speaker are work together as a system, and when they are built and designed to work together, they can really optimize performance, simplify installation, simplify setup, and that's our goal.
CEDIA 2025. What was your takeaway? I mean, I have our opinions and thoughts as one Firefly. We were there in force, and got to see and hang out with our customers and meet new folks and see our friends in the industry. Overall, how was the show for you guys?
Well, I think the show for Sonance was great. It was we were there in force. I don't know the
Your
exact
booth was
number.
always busy. I tried to actually go over there and actually see you a few times, and it was all but impossible to break into that place.
It was busy, and everything. The products were well received. We launched a lot of new products from James, Sonance, and iPort. We had try to always one up ourselves with our experiential demo space, and the demo that we did, it was really well received. New power pipes, new products, new small aperture product that we showed from James. So it was exciting. And as you said, the booth was jammed. That being said, as I walked around the show, and I imagine you feel the same way, just the show felt small. It felt, there were some booths that were really busy and some areas of the show that were pretty dead. And this show just felt small. Like it felt like you could walk from one end to the other way too quickly, compared to what I think you and I both remember from CEDIA's
I mean,
past.
CD at its peak, I think that this may or may not be true, but I want to see at its peak, maybe somewhere there's around 35,000 people there, and
Yeah, I certainly remember 20,000, 25. I don't know about the 35, but yeah, it's a lot. There
a
was
lot.
definitely not that many people at the CD.
Yeah, it felt smaller. It certainly felt smaller. I mean, for example, my East Coast account executive, I mean, he had made the comment in advance of the show that about 70% of his clients did not plan to attend the show. And then, as we pulled our account managers and salespeople, we then gathered sentiment that leaders were going to be attending, but they were likely going to bring less of their crew. And do you have thoughts, or like, why do you think it's smaller? I mean, we're post COVID. We're not afraid to hug and handshake. Like, what's the reason?
Yeah, look, I think that nobody really knows for sure, but the theory I subscribe to is I think the buying groups have all become increasingly important to not all, but all the members, right? And they're growing, and they're adding more and more members each year, and they have each, if I'm not mistaken, 2 conferences a year, and those
I think that
conferences.
might be changing in the next year, but that's been true forever.
So, and I think that those conferences, even in October, I know HTSA has a conference, ASEAN in November, I think ProSource in October as well.
Yep.
And so
Total
they're
Tech
not,
Summit in there on top of that. You might have
they're
some
not
Tech
that
Summit.
far removed from the expo. And I think that those events are well attended. They're increasing the value of those events. They have mini trade shows with the vendors showing product there. And I think that combined with just the times that we live in right now of easy access to information, lots of different methods, the tech summits, other factors, that it's just like, do I need to be at the show? And I think CEDIA, to Daryl's credit, has done a lot to try to increase the value of being a member of CEDIA. The education that happens at CEDIA, I think, is very good education. It doesn't seem to be all that well attended from an education. There seems to be a disconnect there with getting the word out. But I just think people are struggling with, do I really need to be there? Can I get this information elsewhere? Can I see the people I need to see in a better setting, that I have more time with them? And again, I think the buying group events are probably the driving force there.
Yeah, I ditto everything you said. It's curious when you and I have been attending these events and all of these shows for so many decades, to kind
Yeah.
of sit back and just watch the trends. But what makes it, I don't know, I don't want to say anxiety inducing, but maybe something similar to that, is when you and I then are also making the decisions. Where do we spend our money?
Yeah,
Where do we send our people?
for
How do
sure.
we go out there and affect our customers? Spend time with our customers, meet, potential new folks. It's
Yeah. I think I had 41 employees at the show. I can't see us doing that again.
Yeah, no, it's I hear you. All right, well, I am super excited, Ari. I saw you at the ASEAN conference in the spring talk about AI.
Mhm.
And I was fascinated. One, I was like, what the heck is Ari doing on stage talking about AI? Is this like a new Sonance product or division?
I had
And
the same question.
exactly. Well, but you answered it. So why are you and I going to go and nerd out on all things AI here? Why have you taken a stance that
Yeah.
this is important to you and important for you to spend your time on?
Boy, I guess like all of us, Ron, I think I'm on a journey, and it started pretty similar to a lot of people. I had my GPT-3 moment, or when I first tried ChatGPT, and I was like, wow, that's weirdly accurate and interesting, but many other things were not. But it kind of got me started on the topic, and I started to play with it some more. And I think that I started to realize that there were things that I didn't know how to do that I could all of a sudden do. And I think that started my feelings of like, And it kind of became a hobby, right? I started watching different people on YouTube at home and nights and weekends, and sitting there with my laptop, and I'd watch somebody do something, and then I would pause and I'd try it myself, and I would try to twist it a little bit to the topic of my business or my life, but the same task that they were doing with AI. And I had so many mind-blowing moments where I was just like, I can't believe I just did this. Look at this thing. And I always did the first steps. Always I show my wife, and if she's actually like, wow, that's interesting, I kind of feel like I'm onto something. And then I started to show some employees, and it just built from there. And I think, as far as it wasn't meant to be, I didn't have any sort of like, I need to go tell the industry about this. It was more internally, showing friends and family and employees how to upskill themselves and enable themselves to do more. And then a friend of ours, yours and mine, Mark Hoffenberg, asked me to speak at his company AudioVision's entire team summit that they host here in our office, in our studio downstairs. And he said, Ari, you've spoken before. It's been on culture, and it's been really well received. What's on your mind these days? And I was like, this was about 9-10 months ago. And I said, well, Mark, I've been doing a lot of stuff with what I would call practical uses of AI. And he said, that's perfect. My team's asking for training on AI. So that was my first public speaking on AI. And it was well received, and it kind of snowballed from there. And I got some invitations coming out of that to speak to some different rep groups. And then the Synergy group asked me to come to Mexico and speak at their event, which I did. And there's a few ASEAN board members that were there that recommended to ASEAN that they invite me to Indianapolis in May, which was also well received. And that led to a couple invitations to speak at CEDIA on the Smart Stage and in the CEDIA Education Series, which has now led to some more invitations. So yeah, it's a little surreal. I'm standing up there with Alex Capisolatra from Josh AI. I mean, the guy's brilliant and has a degrees in machine learning and all sorts of, been working in AI for 20 years. And he and I are co-presenting on AI, and it's a little surreal. I think we work well together in that I'm able to do some more simple, practical things using consumer products, and he's able to talk more about the science and why we're having this AI moment and what the trends in the world are that are leading to this. And we had fun doing it.
Back when you had that personal aha moment or that light bulb moment, do you recall what one or two of those things were that you were like, this is extraordinary. I need to
Yeah,
show my wife.
so many, but boy, okay. So the first time that I really understood that I shouldn't just be going into a large language model and asking it a question straight there. That's where you're going to get all the same frustrations that we've all experienced of, it makes stuff up and it doesn't know enough about me. And I sort of learned kind of custom GPT being the first foray into this, of like how to build a container of context, give it instructions, give it knowledge. And then I started to get really good answers. And most importantly, I started to be able to have it help me write. And I think I'm a decent writer. It's not like I don't know how to write well. I feel like I'm a pretty good writer to begin with. But boy, when I was able to teach it my voice and our brand voice and get it to help me write important communications, and then I discovered Canvas inside of ChatGPT, and Google has their version of it as well. And that was sort of the frustration. Then it was like, all right, it helped me write something and it's really good. Let's say it's 80%, but I wanted to edit it. And it was that really frustrating experience I think we've all had, where we're like, okay, in the third paragraph, second sentence, change the following. And of course, it changes all sorts of stuff we don't want changed. And when I discovered Canvas inside of ChatGPT and how I could surgically edit, and I could actually just like delete a sentence manually and type in a word manually. And then I just started to use it so much more, because I feel like, I'll never put something out that AI wrote that I didn't edit, right? I take responsibility for everything that I put out, whether I used AI for it or not. It's still me. And so I edit everything I wrote. But now that I can surgically edit it, I use, anything important, I'm gonna leverage AI to write. So that was a big one right there. And then Perplexity, huge unlock for me, right? I know you're a user, and I'm still shocked at how few people use it. When I do, I always say, how many people are using Perplexity? And I think it's probably on average 15 to 20% of the audience. And so what was the unlock there? I like the world, I Google search stuff, right? And I would put a question into Google and I would get all these links. And then it was up to me to go figure out which link to click on and decipher, well, I know this is number one on the list, but somebody probably paid to be there. And how do I trust this? And all sorts of things. And I would actually go read the articles to go find my answer. And when I first discovered Perplexity and tried to use it, it was just like, where has this been my whole life? I mean, instead of getting links, I got answers. And instead of just getting answers that I wasn't sure where those answers came from, every one of those answers had a citation next to it that I could click on and go to the article or YouTube video or wherever it got its answer. I could remove certain sources if I didn't believe in them, and it would rewrite the answer. And then I could ask a follow-up question, like, how did we live for so long with Google search where you couldn't ask a follow-up question without having to give it all the same context over again? And Perplexity just was like such an unlock for me. And I don't think I've Google searched something in a year. And Perplexity is a every day, all the time, no matter what the question that I would have used Google for, I use Perplexity for.
When I think of culture first companies, at least that I'm exposed to in my bubble called the custom integration marketplace, and I'm admitting it's a bubble. You guys are one of the leaders. You personally, I've seen you speak on multiple occasions about people and culture, and I know you follow Patrick Lencioni and some of his followings around the ideal team player, and I've modeled a lot of what we do at One Firefly after a lot of what I've learned from you, in fact.
Appreciate that.
And when we think about AI, at least in the media, we hear a lot of buzz about AI being anti-people. And we hear, and there's a lot of fear and anxiety across workforces, and certainly I think maybe a reasonable threat that AI is going to go for that white collar worker's job
Yeah.
and replace people. And
Right.
so there's that looming, that's like right under the surface all over society right now,
Yeah.
and has been for a while.
Right.
And at the same time, I see you leading with AI, and I want to get into how you're deploying this within your business. But I
Mhm.
do know you are deploying this within your business, and you're trying to help our industry deploy it within their businesses.
That's right.
How do you put those two ideas together? Do they conflict?
I don't think they do. Let me give you my perspective. I really believe that AI is an enabler. It is something that is meant. It's a tool. It's meant to be harnessed by people to upskill and enable us to do things we otherwise couldn't, or do them faster, better, and even at times more creatively. And so, you know, I didn't ask to be a voice of this in the industry, but I'll accept it, particularly because of what you point out, which is, we've got a 40 plus year history of being owned by the same people. I know what our motivations are, right? There's no need for me to question that. I know that our motivations for implementing AI are not what you read in the paper of corporate America looking to eliminate jobs and boost profits. I know in my heart of hearts that we value our team members, we value our customer relationships. And if there is a tool that can help our people do their job better, freeing up their time to be used to take better care of our customers and our company, I'm going to do it every time. And I think that there's a real fear around this, and I understand it. I understand why there's a fear, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a fear, because it is really up to the mindset of the company and its leadership as to what the goal is. And for us, the goal is not to eliminate jobs. The goal is to empower people, to make their jobs easier to do. And that's the approach that we're taking. And look, we got over 300 employees. Do I have employees that are afraid of this and are worried about their jobs? I'm sure I do. But I also know I got a lot of employees that have seen some of the things that we've done through educating them and giving them access to these tools and encouraging them to experiment, and some of the things we've done recently to automate some processes using AI, that they are like excited about. They're like, wow, that is such a pain in the ass part of my job, of manually moving information from one piece of software to another. And you're telling me that that can be automated and I could use that time to do the rest of my job that is more value added? Sign me up. So that's where we're at on that journey. And that's, I just got to stay true to our core belief in people are our greatest asset. And if we can upskill them, then they're more powerful to be able to help the company and help our customers. And as long as we stay true to that, I can't predict the future. But the employees that embrace it, that leverage it, that are proactively saying, if you can make this part of my job easier, here's what I can do with that time to help the company, I think they're going to thrive.
Ari, help me understand where are you at with Sonance in this AI journey? From you initially exploring and inventing and sharing with your family to ultimately bringing this into the business. I know you've come a long way in a very short period of time.
Yeah. Okay.
Where are you guys
So,
at right now?
well, like I said, it's definitely a journey, and it kind of started with that. I kind of caught the bug, and a couple others did as well, and we started to do some trainings and sort of lunch and learn type trainings within the company, and teaching people about some of the tools that were available to them. Ultimately, leading to us saying, "All right, we're ready to invest in this." We hired a AI specialist who had a background in AI and programming to come in as a technical resource. We've been doing, newsletters and trainings and making tools available to people, trying to create a culture of encouraging people to experiment and try things and then share what they've learned. And that ultimately led, as the technology advanced, to really two things that I think are significant in our business, in addition to just general usage of the consumer grade tools. One is that we've started to build some internal apps. And, that's, you were talking earlier about my aha moments. The first time I realized that I could actually build a application, I thought that the idea of building a web page or a app had just missed me. I didn't study that kind of thing, and I'm not technical. And I thought I'll never be able to do that. And the moment that I first took a PDF, dropped it into, I know it was Claude, Anthropic's model Claude, and it turned it into an interactive web application known as an artifact in Claude parlance, blew my mind. I was just like, wait a minute. That was it. I just used English and said, I want this, and it did it. And all this code went by that I don't understand. And then it opened up and I could use it. And then, I could share it with my friends and they could use it. Whoa, that was big. And as I went deeper into that side of it, I learned that, well, yeah, that's cool. But if you really want to use it in the company, you probably need to go a little further than an artifact. And that's when I discovered first, that's when I discovered vibe coding, which is a new term.
Well, for those that aren't aware, what is vibe coding?
Vibe coding is the ability to build and code using English language as the only language. And so there are tools out there that are what are referred to as wrappers for the frontier models like ChatGPT 5 and Claude Sonnet and Opus 4.1. I personally think Claude's Opus 4.1 is the best coding tool out there, but I don't do it inside of Claude. I use products like Lovable and Replit and Bolt.new, and there's many vibe coding apps out there. And these are tools that leverage the large language models like Claude and ChatGPT, but they're built to create apps. And what I learned is that the front end that I was so impressed that I did is actually the easy part of building an application. The hard part's the back end. What do I mean by that? Storing information in a database, having sign-in authorization. If you did want to take payment and having credit card payments, being able to make API calls to large language models to get some reasoning into your app, any of those things, or deploying it so that you can put it out into the world. Those are the hard things. And what I discovered is these vibe coding tools have made that all easy. One click away. That you want to connect to a backend database like Supabase, one click, it writes all the code and connects it. You want to, I guess the best example is if you did, and we're not doing this, but if you did want to take payment for a tool that you built, you have a Stripe account, you give it your Stripe credentials, you click one button and it links your app to your Stripe account. And then when you put that app out there, if somebody wants to sign up and pay money, it puts it right in your Stripe account. That used to be hard, and I think it's easy now. And so that's this vibe coding movement, if you will, has gained momentum. And I understand that there's a lot of programmers that say, you don't know what you don't know. All I know is this, that there are small, low risk tools that don't exist that we're building ourselves. I always say this. Somebody told me this a while ago, it was maybe 9 months ago. They said, Ari, in the future, we're not going to wait for companies to put out a piece of software that does 1,000 things, buy it, download it, and then struggle to get it to do the 50 things that we need it to do. We're just going to build a tool to do the 50 things that we needed to do exactly the way we want it done. I thought they were nuts because that was before I discovered what vibe coding was. And now I'm literally doing exactly that myself. And we have employees that are doing it. And now we've got that AI specialist in place that can make sure we're doing it in a secure, scalable way. And that combination, I think, is super powerful. So we're building internal apps. The second big thing I would say is process automation. So there's been tools like Zapier out there for a long time that are automation tools. I think what's new is that these tools, and the one that we've been using mostly is make.com. But there's N8N, there's make.com, there's Clay, there's others. But what is new is that at each step of the way in a process that is automated, you can leverage AI for reasoning. So instead of it being extremely prescriptive, that it's static and you move from here to here, at each step of the way, what you can do now is call upon a large language model to reason and apply some logic and reasoning and thought to, should I send this to the next step, or should I put it into junk? Is it real? Is it not? Anything like that. And I think that has really unlocked the possibilities for these automation tools. And so we at Sonance are in the process of building an internal application that is a catalog of every process in the company that allows our employees to do it, let's say a screen recording of how they do a certain process that may span 2 or 3 different pieces of software. Send that into the tool, it catalogs it and stores it, which is right there. That's just more than we've had before, which is every single process in the company recorded and cataloged in a nested, organized way so that we can find it, etc.
And
And
AI is watching the video and interpreting it and doing the cataloging, or humans are doing the cataloging?
humans just deciding, okay, I have this process, it's accounts payable, and this is the process that I do today, and they're screen recording it. So there's no AI necessarily involved yet, other than that the tool that we catalog this stuff, we built with
It's
AI.
created using vibe coding.
Right. Yeah, like, and to be fair, that tool was built using AI by a technical person who knows the code base, but is definitely leveraging AI to write a lot of the code to make it happen fast. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's not just me vibe coding such a sophisticated tool.
right.
Although I am building some less sophisticated tools in both business and personal life that I'm doing completely on my own. So the tool then captures that. The next step is that it analyzes it. And there are tools, particularly Gemini, that can actually not only interpret the transcript of the video, but can actually interpret what it sees on the screen in a multimodal way. And so it's the employee showing their screen and narrating what's happening. And Gemini can interpret all of that. And then we've standardized on a certain way of presenting a flow diagram of a process that it converts that into, which kind of enables the next step in our.
The AI will create the flow diagram.
Correct. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, I probably should have emphasized this ahead of starting to talk about this. We are at the early stages of everything I'm talking about. We have not proven to ourselves, let alone me on air telling the world that we figured this out. But we have a vision, and I'm describing to you our direction, and we've got traction though, and we're at the early stages of it. But we've shown ourselves this is worth our time and investment for sure.
What my experience at One Firefly has been, and I would challenge maybe similar for you, is that these tools offer so many unlocks. It challenges us to think so differently about the outcomes we're trying to achieve and what are the ways to ultimately achieve those outcomes.
Yeah.
We've been stuck as humans in business, if you will, thinking about our resources in a very specific way for many, many years.
That's right.
And now these tools,
yes.
To hear you describe this, and if someone 2 years ago was listening to you,
100% agree.
they were like, "This guy's a space cadet. Like,
no,
this
I
is
100%
not
agree.
possible."
I say this often at Sonance. It's like no other time in history has there been a moment where the conventional wisdom of the paradigm that we live in, of how things are done, and you just don't understand, should be challenged more now than ever, because
in human history
that this
right
technology is advancing. I believe personally that it is not just going fast, but it's accelerating.
Yeah.
And I just think that we have to rethink everything. And to be clear, at Sonance, our philosophy is this: while we're rethinking it and trying to do it a different way, you keep doing it the traditional way also in parallel, because I'm not convinced that we're right yet.
Right.
Okay. I am convinced that at some point we will be right. I'm just not convinced that we're right
So
yet.
we call that the sandbox. So we operate and invent in the sandbox.
Right.
While the work that gets done that actually pays our bills,
that's right,
continues to go on uninterrupted.
Exactly.
And when we prove it out in the sandbox, we then roll it out to teams and update processes and train people. But otherwise, I'm only saying that from my experience, because I did it the other way at the beginning.
Right.
And it was terribly disruptive.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn from our mistakes and find out a better way. So
we are at a really interesting point here at Sonance in this journey, though, because we've actually been able to show the organization that we've been able to successfully implement some of these tools to the benefit of the employee and the company. And that's really changed a lot of people's minds. And they've realized that, not that they were like, oh, this will never help, but like, oh, wow, that's literally helping right now. Ooh, what you just did there, I've got a process just like that I think would be right for this. And let me tell you a little bit more. So we analyzed the process, both from a traditional efficiency, lean, Kaizen type of approach, but we're also analyzing it by looking at the different software that is involved in that process, figuring out the tools aware of which of those pieces of software we've been able to successfully connect to with these no-code automation tools. And then it's telling us, hey, this process that I just analyzed is ripe for automation, and let me help you do it. And so we're implementing one of these right now, taking our time, going slow. It happens to be in accounts payable and the way we pay our suppliers.
Could you show, is there graphical support? Could you show us?
Oh, yeah.
And add pictures to words?
Let me, let's do this.
We'll see if we can get technology to behave here, folks. If you are listening, you might want to try to follow along here to what Ari's saying. But if you are so inclined, jump over to the website or jump over to YouTube, and you can watch Ari walk us through this. I'm going to put this on screen here.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Oh, let's see here. Oh, let me pull this one off first. There we go.
All right, so this is a little bit of what I was just talking about, right? So that we're focused on process documentation, process improvement, and process automation. We have sort of a process for our process here, which is that we're going to first capture the process. We're going to analyze the process. We're going to try to automate the process. Then we're going to take that automation and turn it into an app so that it's got a front end to it. And then we're going to deploy it through what we're building now, which is sort of an internal app store. And I obviously use that term loosely since we're not charging our employees, but based upon their credentials, they have access to certain tools and not to others. So capture, we built this tool. This is the tool I was referring to that our technical resource using AI built, which is a process catalog. And the idea is that every single process in the company will be cataloged here and documented. So you can see some finance and business management. We can then drill down to accounts payable. There's a process for automatic voucher creation. And these are the steps. There's setup, there's staging, building vouchers, et cetera. But we've also had the employees record their screen and upload that recording into the process catalog within the exact process that recording is referenced. And then as an example, they could record, this happens to be a dealer setup process that someone's recording here, and send this type of screen recording into us. And then we analyze that, like I said, turning it into a flowchart diagram, which we can then analyze for efficiency, as well as compare it to our technology stack. So we know which pieces of software are involved. We're a Microsoft shop, so we know we can connect to Outlook. We still use Slack, Asana, et cetera. And we can then look to automate. So the first process that we've been able to automate using make.com looks something like this. So simplified version. Each one of these nodes is a step in the process. So the first thing is that we monitor the accounts payable at sonance.com inbox, looking for emails from our suppliers with attachments usually, which are the invoice that we need to pay. Today, somebody monitors that, opens it up, figures out if it's a real invoice, and then manually enters that information into our ERP. And so now we monitor the inbox, and then this is a key step. It sends this information out to, we chose Claude in this case, to interpret, is it a real email? If it's not, it sends it down this path, which is essentially into junk. And if it is, it sends it down this path where it then compares it to specific rules that we've taught the system, basically built a table and said, supplier UPS, their invoices are normally 3 pages. And on page 2, you'll find the stuff we owe them. And that's where you look. And that just helps the model. And then we do some optical character recognition. And by the way, our team looked at off-the-shelf tools that do this exact process and compared their accuracy to this process and found that Claude was more accurate and Make.com was more accurate than the off-the-shelf tools we would have had to pay for.
Wow.
And it extracts the lines from the invoice using optical character recognition very accurately. And then it builds a staging table. We use Supabase for the table, and then ultimately builds a payment voucher. And then a very key step here, we have an employee verify the accuracy of it. And that's where we're building this sort of front end, we call it appifying, right? Turning it into an app, because this process will run completely invisibly in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But by putting a front end to it, it allows us to, number one, make sure a human is in the loop, and then ultimately we pay our supplier. So as I said, appifying it, we can put a front end to it, like AP automation. Then we know exactly who has access to that tool, who can make changes to it, who can fix it. There are, if the tool breaks in any way, it alerts the right person. We can go in there and see it. And this is sort of the beginnings of a internal app store where we can deploy apps to our employees from their Active Directory permissions that they have.
I'm going to go maybe a bit deep just quickly. And that is, who, in the case of these apps within your company architecture, has the right to change or modify source code? Is it that head of AI, or is it the department head within finance?
Yeah, we're still figuring those things out, but what we're doing is pairing up someone technical with a business resource. So someone who understands it from our finance department inside and out, paired up with someone who understands Make.com and AI. And the two of them together built this. And so now we've got a business owner and a technical owner, and they're both alerted if the process breaks in any way. And then together they can go. And that's one of the great things about these tools like Make.com is we can figure out exactly where it broke, right? We'll see an error on one of these nodes. That's where the process broke. It'll alert us of that.
Right.
And instead of just saying the whole process is broken, this step in the process is broken, we open up one of these nodes, change settings, and we can fix it.
How are you thinking, Ari, in terms of the investment you make? I'm going to pull this off the screen here so we can be larger. How are you thinking in terms of the investment in R&D? Like, as a manufacturer, you normally likely have a predetermined allocation of a budget, percentage of revenue, or other that you allocate into developing new products or software. And now this is in a new category, which is, internal operations, but it requires R&D. It requires personnel and time, both of your existing staff and of this new hires within your department.
Right.
Is there a new way in 2025 or even mid 2024 that you started to think about budgeting for this?
Yes. First of all, let's start with this fact. We're a privately held company. I don't answer to Wall Street or a private equity firm. I answer to our founders, and our founders see this vision. They share this vision with us. And so we're over investing, right? We're double investing at times in doing things the traditional way, as well as staffing up in our sort of AI task force that's going to be deployed with our business owners to automate process, streamline efficiencies, upskill employees, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that. And then, as we get into planning stages for different departments and looking at headcount, and we see all the open positions at any given time at Sonance, we have something like 20 open positions where we're trying to hire for. And we're like, do we really need to add yet another person doing that job? Or should we take those dollars and add somebody to the AI team to be able to make the rest of the team more efficient and not need to add another person to the team?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's, I'd say, first and foremost. And then, I think it's really just a recognition that there's an overlap investment period that I was just alluding to, and knowing that. And I think that if the leader or leaders of the organization aren't personally having those aha moments, it's hard to make that choice. But I feel like our leadership team here and I have had those moments together, and we've seen the light, and we're all in.
I'm not you, but I'd like to think in a small way I'm similar to you in that I'm also 10 toes down in there experimenting nights, weekends,
Yeah.
sometimes during the business day. And that passion and those aha moments I've personally had have really helped inspire me to then invest and drive activity within the business.
Mhm.
And you just made a declarative statement that it's easier when that executive team is doing it for them to then understand what's possible.
Yes.
Um, do you have a perception of how common or likely that is for executive teams out there to be doing this versus them thinking they can delegate this down to some member of their team to air quote figure it out?
Ron, only by what I've been told, and I get a lot of people say, not all CEOs do this, and I'm like, I guess so. I don't know. For me, it's been,
That's
uh,
my answer usually is I only know what I do.
yeah, but for me, it's been part just like hobby, passion, and part just recognizing the power of what it can do for our employees and our company.
Yeah.
And I think the mistake that I see and hear is too often the leaders, like, they don't really understand it. So anything that says AI, any article, any YouTube video, they send it to their team. Oh, you'll probably be interested in this. And I think that's actually detrimental. It's just information overload and signal noise. And so I even check in with my team, like, I just want to be sure, like, I'm trying not to overwhelm and inundate you, but did any of those things I sent you over the last few weeks, were they not relevant? And they're like, no, this is like real, like, because I understand it enough that I'm only sending them things that are really, really relevant. But I always say this too. It's like, um, we were talking about no other time in history kind of thing. Well, at no other time in history do I think that it is appropriate for the CEO of a company to be going to their people and saying, I watched this guy on YouTube do something, and I think you need to watch this because this is a new way of running our business. Like, I think that in general, that should be shunned, except for right now, because there are things that I watch people do that I believe are not only incredibly relevant to our business, but basically are new ways of using these tools, or maybe using more than one tool in conjunction to do something that has never been done before, that's really impactful and powerful. And I
Yeah.
think that just having people with an open mind, and that's what we're doing. It's sharing knowledge, right? And they're teaching me things, I'm teaching them things, and we're collaborating. And we've got, ultimately, I want to get the flywheel spinning where I don't need to be pushing, and we're getting closer and closer every month, where more and more people are seeing the opportunity and are excited about it. And of course, the technology is getting better and better. So I feel like things are heading in the direction of the flywheel spinning on its own and getting real momentum.
You figuring this out. What does this mean to your dealers, your clients, the industry at large?
Well, for us to start with, it's about, first and foremost, I always kind of subscribe to the idea that if you take care of your people will take care of your customers. And I think that's, it's like this notion that AI is being used by corporations to eliminate people is just foreign to me. Like, I understand that it is capable of being viewed that way, and that there are likely companies that have that philosophy. It's just not ours. And so I see it as, if we can upskill and enable our employees, if we can free up more of their time, we have really good people that want to take care of our customers, that want to improve the company and improve our culture. And if I can get them off of manually moving information, drop down menus in one piece of software to another, and free up their time to be talking to our customers, talking to our suppliers, getting up from their desk and talking to our employees, we're going to be a better company, and we're going to take better care of our customers. From there, I just say, it sounds like there's interest industry wide for who's doing something actually impactful with it. And I feel like we are. So I'm going to try to share that experience in a hopefully humble way with people, to say that I don't think we've got it all figured out, but here's where we're at. And we're an open book, right? If I don't care if you're a customer, another vendor, or even a competitor, if you reach out, I will share where we're at, what we're doing, as long as I learn something too, right? I mean, as long as people say, well, have you tried this? And that's been most of my interactions on this topic. And I think there's a hunger for this. I know there is. And by the
Can I
way, get
ask,
this out there. If anybody listening wants to reach out, please contact me either directly, ari@sonance.com, or you can email our AI team. So ai@sonance.com. So I'm going to put R in the middle, you'll get me. Take the R out, you're going to get a team of people, including me. And look, we're not going to go set up an entire automation for you, but we'll tell you which tools we've been using. We'll share our experience. We'll do anything we can to help.
I want to step out of this industry and I want to look at society at large. And I'd love your opinion. What does this mean for this generation of students that are in school right now? My son, for example, 16, he's a junior in high school. And we have talked regularly about what does this mean, this AI, this Cambrian explosion of technology innovation in the world, in terms of ultimately what area of study he goes into. And yet there still are so many school systems at all levels, even up to college, where even right now in 2025, there's resistance to AI.
Yeah.
Using ChatGPT is considered cheating. What's your thought? Because I'm thinking the whole education system has to be changed.
I couldn't agree more. So I'm right behind you. I've got two daughters, 15 and 13. Both of them are embracing AI. And, we had these discussions. I had two discussions with them. Number one, Rebecca, Delilah, do you know that you're going to be able to cheat with this technology? I'm like, why would I do that? And I said, well, you understand that you're able to. And they said, yeah, I guess I understand that, but I wouldn't cheat. And so I said, I want you to think about it over the week. This was like a year and a half ago, and come back and tell me that you really want to learn this. And I trust them implicitly. And I've also scared them in all of the ways that parents should scare them about using AI to cheat, because you will get caught. But I think they've embraced the idea that it can be used for more than cheating. It can be used for learning. And the other conversation I had with them, because there was some resistance at first, like, Dad, I don't want to learn computer stuff. Like, that's not interesting to me. And it was like, I'm not actually wanting you to learn AI. What I'm wanting you to do is learn how to use AI to pursue your passions. And I think that's the mentality they have now, which is that it can be used to help them learn better and faster. So what do I mean by that? So many examples, but I've turned them on to tools like Notebook LM to be able to put their study materials into a notebook and be able to easily create a study guide. They just launched flashcards and quizzes so that they can put their curriculum into it and have it quiz them when they're the night before a test. That's just one of many examples. And they really are starting to leverage it, and they're leveraging it for fun as well. And they're creative kids, and they're building games. And one of my daughters is really into pop music, and so we together quickly built a little game, of a trivia game that she could play with her friends, that was lyrics to popular Taylor Swift and whatnot songs. And the fact that we built that ourselves, and I know you do stuff with robotics with your son, and it's like, I'm not that technical. I'm not building robotics. But the fact that she and I built a game that can be played by people is just mind-blowing to me, and fun. And they've started to catch the bug, and I see them using it on their own. And my wife takes some art classes and art history classes, and she's using it. And and Notebook LM is the tool I would highly suggest people with children in school or their own taking classes try. That's the tool that does the podcast thing that went viral. And now they have video overviews that you can build. And like I said, it's just tailor-made for anybody taking any kind of class. So I think that additional to that, I really feel strongly that our education system is going to need to change. Obviously there was all sorts of outcry. I think you and I are likely still too young to have experienced this ourselves when the calculator came out, of like, no one's going to learn math anymore. And of course we still have to learn math. It's a tool to be used and harnessed, and I see it that way. As far as what does this mean for broader society, those are really, really important questions. People, I clearly am bullish on this topic, but if you ask me, am I scared? Of course I'm scared. There's so many reasons to be scared about the possibilities of how AI can be used, about it eliminating jobs and what is our purpose and all of those things. And I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not smart enough to have really strong opinions about what's going to happen. My general feeling is that we're going to, as a world and society, eventually get to a place where this is a massively positive thing in the world. I just think, and I think it's obvious that there's going to be bumps in the road, and it's going to be disruptive. And like any technology and any technical revolution, it will eliminate jobs. It'll create new jobs that didn't exist before. And so when it comes to kids and learning all this stuff, it's like, as you're going through this right now, I'm sure it's like, how do we steer them right? And what should they study to try to be prepared for 4 years or 5 years from now when they come out of college, like our kids, right? And what careers? And I just think, much like we've been talking about, you got to change your paradigm. And I don't have the answers. So I try to go to what's the common denominators. I still feel like this. Being able to communicate effectively, being able to create connection with people, demonstrating empathy, influencing people, these things aren't going to ever go away. And in fact, I believe they're going to become more important in the future. And so a lot of people, I think, misdiagnose this and say STEM, right? You got to get into technology and technical things because the world's getting more technical. I kind of see it as the opposite. I feel like what this is democratizing technology, making it accessible. Now, look, there'll be amazing jobs at the frontier model companies that pay huge money if you're that talented at machine learning and AI algorithms. But I also think that there is going to be the rest of the world that is going to leverage this technology to not have to be that technical. And what's going to become important is the things I talked about, which is human connection and just being somebody people want to connect with, being somebody who can influence people and lead people. I just think that's going to only become more valuable in the future. So that's the stuff I encourage my kids to do. Lean into creativity, to passion, and do things that you love doing. And I don't know. I really don't.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That when
Yeah.
we try to look into the future, I'll go 3 years out, maybe it's fairly opaque. 5 years out, it's entirely opaque.
Yeah.
And I can't remember in my lifetime where that was true. Looking forward was so hard to predict. And by the way, I don't want to be negative in saying that. I don't want to say doomsday is on the other side of that. It's just not so obvious what happens when, in particular, AGI, which is, when the AIs become as smart as us, and then ASI, when the AI becomes superhuman and has an IQ. It has the highest IQ ever recorded in every subject that's ever been recorded. And then it's agentically correcting itself and creating itself. I mean, and that's like in our lifetime, it's in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years that seems at the moment that's going to be true.
That's right.
And that's like fascinating. Like, what an awesome time to be alive.
It is. That's how I see it.
It's incredible. All right, we're at time. I know you have other meetings. You're a busy man. But I would love, Ari, if you'd point our audience in a few directions of resources that have been meaningful to you. YouTube channels, books, podcasts, influencers. what are places people could go to? Maybe if they're going, all right, Ari's convinced me, I'm going to start taking this seriously. What should they do? Where could they consume more
Yeah,
knowledge or
I would
information?
say a couple places. So to start with, I prefer YouTube. I'm not, I think it's just a visual medium, right? It's like I want to watch somebody do something, and then and I always, when I do my public speaking, I always say, like, put it on. I don't put YouTube on my laptop, right? I put my laptop on my lap, and I put YouTube on the biggest screen I can find.
Yep.
And so for me, that's a projection screen, and I put it on Apple TV, and I watch somebody do something. I pause,
Yep.
and I try it myself, but I try to personalize it to my life and my business. And that's how I've learned everything. And so who do I watch? I think the channel I've learned a lot from, I'd say, is Matt Wolf. I think
Yeah.
he's done a really good job.
My son and I watch Matt Wolf every Saturday morning.
Yeah, he's really good at that. And then, I know you and I both are friends with Isar Matus and his podcast, Multiply AI. What's the name of the podcast?
Yeah, Multiply AI.
That's his company, but
Leveraging AI.
Leveraging AI. Thank you. So I watch those on YouTube, and he's done more and more recently where he's doing live demonstrations of things versus just talking. But I don't do the newsletters and things like that because I do follow different people on, I still call it Twitter. But what do those do? They lead me to the YouTube view of it, and I watch somebody do something. But then I would also say I've maybe done a lot of this homework for you, and if you want, I'll send you recordings of me speaking and showing my favorite tools and how we're using them, and I'll send those to anybody who wants them. I'm not trying to be a content creator, but if I'm speaking and we're capturing it, I speak so fast because there's so much to cover, and it's like no one's going to actually be able to retain it all. You got to record it so they can go back and try something and pause it and try it.
Yeah.
As far as tools, just to list a couple that people, if you're not yet trying, you really should, in my opinion. Whisperflow for voice dictation into a computer is just game changing. It's probably the tool that I've had more people that I've introduced it to reach back out, sometimes within an hour, sometimes a month later, and be like, all right, game changer. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that one. And then, I would say I use Claude a lot. It's probably my go-to model. I still use ChatGPT because of Canvas that we talked about earlier and editing, writing. I love Notebook LM for any type of educational things. And then anyone who's kind of, Perplexity. I can't not mention Perplexity. And kind of if you're like, all right, yeah, I'm doing those things, I'm ready for the next step. Then it's vibe coding and no code automation. And the YouTube channel that I find to be most informative there is a gentleman named Mark Kashif, Kashif. And I would seek his channel out and watch some of his videos. They are a little more technical, but he's does a really good job of simplifying and speaking in a non-technical way.
Amazing. Ari, it's been amazing to have you on Automation Unplugged. Thank you for your willingness to join us and to share. I've got some of your websites here. I'll let you spell them out for folks just so we capture it in the transcript. But I'm just going to put them on the screen.
So Sonance.com, Sonance.com is where you'll find all of our brands there. And if you want to go deeper into either Blaze or iPort, I'd visit those sites as well. So blaze-audio.com, and then our iPort site at iport.io.com.
And one more time, we'll put the email up there.
Yeah, you want to get a hold of me, Ari at Sonance. Don't hesitate to reach out. And then if you want to just get a hold of our AI team, AI@sonance.com, and give us a question or request a video of any one of our presentations that we've been giving, and we will make them available to you.
Ari, thanks for joining us on this episode of Automation Unplugged.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me.